Natasha, and thank you so much for joining me today. Well, I have a couple of new items in my stash which I have been so excited to get my hands on. The stamp set on the left from Catherine Pooler is called the Ornamental Thoughts stamp set, and then I also picked up this window trio die from Waffle Flower. Now, have I created a similar look before using individual dies? Absolutely, but sometimes I just need a couple of new products to inspire me and look forward to using. And so I picked this up. This is one that I've been eyeing for a long time. There's been lots of different versions from different companies, but this one is just going to work well with me. And then today I wanted to do something a little bit different for me, and I wanted to do sort of a grey scale card, so sort of greys, white and black. So really no colour at all, and I stick to that really well, and I still love the outcome of the card. So I'm going to take the square one of the trio dies. I have got a piece of 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch cardstock, and I'm going to just use a little piece of mint tape to hold that down onto my cardstock as I run it through. Now, was I semi trying to line this up? A little bit. Did it work? I mean, debatable, not really, and that's okay because I did need a border anyway, so I guess this was just the perfect opportunity. So I just line it up roughly. If you want to make it perfect, then you could take the squares from the innards from the previous one, put them where you want them to the right hand side, and then lay your die on top so that you can sort of fit them into place, and you'll know it's exactly where you wanted it to be. But instead of that, I'm going to take my rectangle stack die set from Infinity Dies, so the rectangle ones, and I'm just going to sort of cut this out, die cut it out, and then that way it looks like I lined it up all along. And this is fine with me. I didn't mind it at all. It was very, very convenient and easy to cut these window trio dies. Now, of course, you could replace the innards back in just like this, paper piecing them all back in. I mean, I'm seeing rainbows, I'm seeing windows, I'm seeing all sorts that you could do with this. But as I said, I had a goal today, and that was sort of to go on this whole grayscale theme. So that's what I'm going to stick with. I have been wanting this Catherine Pooler stamp set for a while, ever since I saw it come out. It's relatively new, I think. But I want some things to stamp on, some backgrounds, because I need some dimension in this card. So this looks a little bit rough, but I am just very casually cutting out some little squares that I'm going to end up stamping on. Now, of course, these don't have to be perfect. No one's really going to see all of those pieces. And just because I'm trying to be efficient with my time, I'm actually not even going to remove these gorgeous stamps from the backing sheet. I am just going to stamp them essentially upside down. So I'm going to ink one up. I take one of my little squares, I'm going to press it down. I'm also going to, because the squares aren't quite big enough and just to stop me from getting inky fingers, I just use a little piece of paper on the back too. And then this is a gorgeous pattern. I am so excited to be using these stamps. Now, I am using a few Catherine Pooler products. I am not sponsored. I do not get sent products, not by scrapbook.com, not by Catherine Pooler. No, so I don't get anything like that at all. I've just purchased these just like regular, and I'm just really excited to have something new in my craft space. And as I said, that's what really helps to inspire me sometimes. Sometimes I just need a couple of new little bits and pieces. So this is a gorgeous stamp set from Julie Hickey. This is called the Garden Blooms stamp set, but it has a gorgeous little thinking of you, delicate sort of scripty text here. Now, the reason I wanted a small sentiment is that the other panels, the other windows are quite busy. The pattern is quite busy. So I want the sentiment to stand out and not sink into the background. So I'm keeping it super simple, and I want some white space, or grey space in this case, to be around the outside. So I am using the window to kind of line this up. I have also stamped half of my stamp first so I can stack it on top, and it just says thinking of you. I do think that you could do this with any colour palette. You could do this, I mean, you could go rainbow, but honestly you could also do this with all blues or all greens or all reds, all oranges. I can see so many gorgeous ways of doing this. And I'm going to be using the Twilight ink today. I am forever on the hunt for a good grey ink. I do like Catherine Pooler's inks because they stamp beautifully, even though they are a dye ink and they are water reactive. So here I'm just testing how much ink I need to get the background that I want, and I'm going to be doing a little bit of ink blending. I think her inks blend beautifully too. They are a little bit expensive, and so that's one of the reasons why I haven't chosen to invest fully in these. I do have a handful. I also have some of her minis as well, and I think they are great inks. I love that they stamp beautifully, which is for me not super common in a dye ink. I usually rely on my pigment inks, my VersaMark clear inks, if I want stamping beautifully. But here I am just going to do the sort of opposite. So this is the white version. I'm taking some VersaMark ink. This is just a sticky embossing ink. And although my ink pad is a little bit dirty, so you actually can see some of the pattern here, in theory it's meant to be clear. It's just a sticky ink. And I'm going to put some white embossing powder on this. If you don't have white, then you could just use clear, because obviously that's going to trap the white underneath it. But just because my ink pad, my embossing ink pad was a little bit dirty, I'm going to use the white embossing powder, and then I'm going to heat set these. And this is essentially just a gorgeous resist technique. If you didn't have the grey ink, then you could just do this on some grey cardstock, and then you could obviously stamp in the embossing ink, and then you could use white embossing powder to melt this, and that would give you a very similar look. But I'm just using my white cardstock and the same ink just so that everything coordinates as well. And then with this gorgeous resist technique, as soon as you put ink on top, all of those gorgeous patterns show up. Now this is my favorite foam tape. It's of course linked down below. I love that I can cut it into really tiny thin strips, but it comes in two different widths. You'll see both of them used on the back here. This is the wider one. I believe it is 1 centimeter, and then the other one is maybe 1/4 of an inch or so. I'm not sure. You'll have to look on the website, but these are just two beautiful widths, and I love this foam tape. And so all I'm doing is covering the backs. I could have made this a shaker card, but in my opinion, a thinking of you card is not necessarily a shaker card in my mind. So I'm just going to leave these as sort of dimensional windows. So once I've taken off all of the release paper, this is when I can add my panels. Now I knew I was going to need to trim these down a little bit, so I'm just going to do a very, very rough trim around the outside, and then if need be, once they are stuck down, I can trim up a little bit further then. But I'm just looking down this way because I can center it this way rather than having the image down on my desk and sort of pressing it, having the background window on my desk and pressing the image into it. This way I feel like I can line up these patterns much better if I do it this way. So then I'm having a grey one. I sort of want to alternate between the two, and then of course there will be a sentiment in the middle there as well. This one again just a little bit big, so I just take my scissors and do a very, very rough chop. No one is going to see any of this part, so that's the good thing. And then once I put one of the black and white ones there, you can see that I've still got all the sticky exposed on the back. And then I just cut these down. I was just trying to make sure that the patterns weren't next to each other. So using the sort of just keeping the two, because there's only 3 patterns I've used, so I'm going to have to repeat them, but just making sure they're not right beside each other. So then I do one of the grey and then one of the black and white ones on the right hand side, and then I absolutely could have done all 6 patterns, and then I could have done a sentiment in the little crossbars of the windows at the front. That would have worked beautifully too if you had a nice little delicate sentiment that fit in there, but I just decided to make one of the windows and keep it really clean on the front there. So again, line it up, but make sure that it's pretty centered as well as I can get it at least. And then at this point, I would be putting the white window on the white background of the card base. So I decided I would actually use the Twilight ink to make this a sort of grey colour in the background too. And that way the white window is just, again, really going to pop off the page. As I said, I can see this with all different colours. And of course, I think with different colours, you could most definitely use this for different occasions. It could be birthdays, it could be celebrations, it could be congratulations, it could be anything. So I think if you wanted a baby card, you could do light pinks and light blues, or pastel greens and pastel yellows, or all those sorts of things. I think you could change this card up really, really easily. But that is my card done for today. I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I did enjoy creating it. This was a pretty simple but fun card to make. Of course, I'll have links down below to the supplies, but I'll see you in the next video. Thanks, bye!